Granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. Well, I have avoided talking about the Henry Nowak murder because I found the subject so painful. That poor boy, his last images on this earth were a group of policemen laughing at him and dragging him about. And then there's the parents. The pain they must be going through now is not even to be imagined. So pointless, so stupid, and such a perfect storm of cruelty, madness, and ignorance, all combined together to kill this, as far as I can tell, very fine young man. And yeah, I've been thinking about it for days actually, and it's been bothering me a lot. All right, well, what happened, in case you are out of the country and don't know, is this young man got into some sort of an altercation, which started out, I think, as a bit of joshing with a Sikh man who was carrying a kirpan. Now, a kirpan is a religious obligation to a Sikh. It's an 8-inch knife, and it's worn as a matter of religious duty. It is, ironically enough, supposed to represent kindness or grace. It is supposed to be used only for the defense of the weak and the defenseless. And it is not to be used offensively or even as a standard knife, not for utility. It has a specific religious aura around it. And the chap who wielded this knife to kill somebody, Vikram Digwa, just went against absolutely everything that Sikhism teaches. I have a lot of respect for Sikhs. And I found this whole incident weird beyond belief. So before I carry on, I have to remind you all that the kirpan, which is carried by a Sikh, is supposed to symbolize a Sikh's duty to stand against injustice, to protect the weak and defend human rights. And it is not supposed to be used in any way offensively. And it was used very offensively in this case. First of all, Henry Nowak was stabbed in the backs of his legs. Both legs were wounded, which means that Mr. Digwa was actually trying to stop him from running away. He was deliberately wounding somebody who was trying to get away from him. And then when he had succeeded in hobbling Mr. Nowak to the extent that he couldn't get away, he then stabbed him through the body. It turned out, I don't know, either his heart or his lungs were opened up by the knife. Now, what I don't want in this situation, and I could very well see this government doing that, is making things like the Kirban illegal. This would also take in the Scottish scian-dubh, which is a knife that a Scot is supposed to wear down the side of his sock, a male Scot, or perhaps even a female Scot who identifies as a male Scot, I don't know. But anyway, that knife is part of the Scottish traditional costume, and it's called a scian-dubh, meaning dark or black or hidden. And in this case, since it's down his sock, it's the hidden aspect. the thing is that these knives, the kirban and the skiandu, are carried legitimately because they're allowed to by law, whereas in the rest of the British law, if you're carrying any knife over 3 inches without a lawful reason, yeah, lawful reason being, you've gone out shopping for kitchen equipment, then if you're carrying a knife without being able to explain yourself about this, then you're contravening the law. There's a very heavy penalty for it. And this government, not this government particularly, British governments are becoming famous for passing knee-jerk laws. That is, one person acts badly and then they make a law that affects everybody. And yeah, if suddenly there were a rash of Sikh men going around stabbing innocent bystanders, I would agree for having the kirpan made illegal. But actually, this is a very unusual case. This guy, Vikram Digva, is not only a murderer, but has a very evil personality. I'm sorry, I don't use the word evil lightly. He rang the police after he realized he had mortally wounded somebody. He didn't ring for an ambulance. He rang the police to complain that he had been assaulted by this man dying at his feet. And then the police came out. So there was a whole lot of time that was lost in looking after this fellow. If Mr. Digva has called an ambulance, then Henry Nowak might have been saved. But no, he came up with this lie, and that's where everything went wrong, because the police immediately logged a crime of racism and proceeded robotically along that track.
I'm sorry that Henry's life couldn't be saved that night, and I'm sorry that he was handcuffed and arrested in the moments before he lost consciousness. When his killer made that call to police, and he called the police, not the ambulance service, he lied on that call. He lied.
Yeah.
When police attended the
Yeah, what happened was he saw he'd mortally wounded someone. So instead of calling an ambulance, he rang the police and immediately set up a case that he had been attacked and racially abused by a white man. And then when the police came in, they proceeded along the lines of a racial attack. That's the first thing. If Mr. Digva had called an ambulance straight away, then he would possibly have been facing a charge of grievous bodily harm or something like that, but not murder. And I might say even worse, his mother hid the knife he used. That's just terrible. Has that woman got no sympathy for the mother of Henry Nowak? No, she had a murderous son, a lying murderous son, and then she went and hid the knife, which would give the somehow might have given the idea that Henry Nowak had been racially abusing an unarmed Sikh man. They also accused him of knocking off his turban, by the way. I mean, he'd constructed this whole universe of lies.
when police attended the scene. He continued to lie as Henry's condition deteriorated. It is clear, and it is absolutely tragic, that it took them 3 minutes before they started to administer first aid.
It took more than 3 minutes, and the police will not release the body cam footage. So we still don't know exactly. I mean, if it really is as he said, then it's releasing the body cam footage would just exonerate the police, but they haven't released that body cam image, have they? And I've heard that Henry Nowak was dragged across gravel, handcuffed, and then dragged because he wouldn't get up. He couldn't get up. And they were treating him like a sack of potatoes.
It is important, though, to say the pathologist has been clear there's nothing officers could have done which would have saved.
That's not even the beginnings of an excuse. It's no good the police saying there is nothing that the police could have done. The last words that kid heard were, "I don't think so, mate," when he said he couldn't breathe. And they were laughing at it. Apparently, one of the police officers was laughing at him. Now, again, this is all I have heard because the police haven't released the footage. And if they haven't released the footage, I have an idea that they have something to hide. So I'm sorry. No, that doesn't cut it. It really doesn't. Here we have this, but again, it's just a Facebook post. So how do I know? Newly revealed details have sparked outrage with allegations that a female officer laughed when the stabbed teenager pleaded for help. And she laughed because she heard him say, "I can't breathe," which she just assumed he was quoting George Floyd. So Floyd is responsible for this murder as well. And the article examines claims that Henry was handcuffed and left bleeding despite repeatedly saying he'd been attacked. They didn't even believe him because they'd already blocked their minds. They'd already been told this is a racist attack, and they'd gone along those railway lines, as well as questions surrounding the subsequent police investigation. So they immediately had this racist narrative, and that's how they responded, like a bunch of robots. Now, BBC says a police watchdog is probing this. Yeah, here, I'll show you a picture of the watchdog, because that would be about as useful as almost anything else the police might do now. They are not going to admit that their training is racist against whites. They are not going to admit that their officers were absolute bastards, all of them. They are not going to admit that the officers involved in dealing with this case, all of them were absolute bastards. They are not going to admit that they are badly prepared for dealing with vicious brown people. And putting everything onto white people. And of course, this does come from the top. We heard Keir Starmer making a speech about the Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom march, about them being thugs and right-wing racists or something, and just terrible people, and this is going to ruin the country and all the rest of it, when at the same time as that march was going on, there was a pro-Palestine march. I believe it featured a figure wearing a skull cap, pretending, sort of representing a Jew, hanging from a noose. Now, I don't know whether it was that one or another recent one, but the police haven't arrested anyone in respect of that. And yet they handcuffed Henry Nowak and dragged him across a gravel path and laughed at him. And that was the last thing in Henry Nowak's conscious world that he ever saw. And his poor parents, the heartbreak, this is going to pursue them for the rest of their lives because of a lying thug who happened to be brown. And the police were programmed to, my dog knows that I'm upset, and he's come over here. You can't see it because the camera's at the wrong angle, but he's just laid his nose across my knee here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not that upset, really, honestly. Well, I am actually. All right, well, I'm patting his head now. You can't see that either. He's being reassured. Such a terrible situation. And the police saying sorry, that's not enough. And saying he couldn't be helped. Yes, he could. Even if only that his last moments would be a feeling of care and help from representatives of the government that's supposed to take care of him. sorry doesn't cut it here. Okay, till next time. Okay, go back to your bed. Go on. Go on. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.